We will expand a bit on shaders, and I really want to show you, well, maybe not all, but I just created a new material. But I want to show you the majority of these shaders and effects. I will disable this specular. I really rarely use this specular and specular color, only if I'm going for a really stylized and artistic effect. Later I'll show you why, and you can get real speculars, real physically correct speculars without utilizing these two channels. Okay, so let's go. First I always convert my test objects to polygon objects. Is just a good idea, because while it's a parametric object, you can get into trouble, and meaning this. For example, let's say you create a material, apply it, and the object is still a parametric object. If it stays parametric and the shader is applied, you won't be able to see if there are any shading errors on surface or something like that. So I always convert them to polygon objects. Let's apply that material. And we can fire away with our first example. This can look a little bit intimidating, because you can see so much menus and people really get lost. So let's try to be as simple as we can. I'll work strictly in the color channel for now, just to show you those effects. And if you click here on this little arrow, you will get all this bunch of options. And the first are really self-explanatory. Clear means to clear whatever it is inside. Load image is self-explanatory, and create a new texture. You can save presets and then load them. This next section we have for, well, most commonly used shaders, and that is exactly why they are isolated here. So we will talk about color, Fresnel, gradient, and noise. I think the color is really self-explanatory. Basically select the color of the object. The difference between this color and this one is now that you can actually mix those two colors. Let's expand on that a bit. Simply select a red color. You can see now that currently this mix mode is set to normal. That can be a little bit confusing. Let me show you how. If you pull this brightness slider somewhere here, there will be no effect. Even if you crank it up really high, somewhere around few thousand, nothing will happen. I will undo that. Only this lower one will work. And now this color will have some effect. You can demonstrate that by, for example, putting here a yellow color. And you will see now that we have a mixture of our colors. If I pull this brightness a bit down, you will see then the effect. So this color, this mix mode, will only work if this is not set to 100%. Other than that, you can play with this color and brightness slider and all the way you want, nothing will happen. There are also a few more mix modes. For example, the add mode means I will add this color. Okay? That's really simple. The other one is subtract. I will subtract this color from this color. It may sound a little bit simple, but there is a really good explanation in the help file. And the multiply means multiply both colors. And these colors work in RGB values. So I suggest really not to bang your head about these settings just now. Just leave it to normal. We will expand on that a bit later. So this is the first shader. We can render it with Alt R. We have an interactive preview. We can see a nice red color here. Let's clear that. And we instantly have an empty slot. So now this color becomes more prominent because it is the only setting we have. There is no texture currently. So texture, any texture, for example, if you put another color here, and if it is in normal mode, it will override this color. I hope I haven't lost anyone. at this very start. Procedural materials are extremely powerful. You really can't imagine how, but there are some tips and tricks how to use them, and you really have to learn how to think in the terms of those materials. Let me clear that color and we will go to our next guy, which is, I will set this also to be somewhere at around 80% of gray. That's the default Cinema 4D material. The next guy I want to cover is this Fresnel. We'll load it here. You will see some sort of a change. Disable my render and I'll rotate this a bit so you can see more clearly, possibly. Imagine this is a window. Let's scale it down a bit. Pull it in a bit in the back. Imagine this is a window, and in the real world, if you are looking straight through the glass, you can see through it. And if you look from the side, then the transparency will be really small, so you will get a lot more reflection than transparency. That is exactly what this shader does, and it's best used in the transparency channel. So let us demonstrate that. I can right click here and select copy, and then in the transparency channel I can here also under texture tab I can select right click, paste. I will disable color channel and only enable transparency. Let's render that and see what we have. Currently we don't have much. Maybe it's a better idea to clear it and really build it linearly so you can understand. So now you can actually see that this is 100% transparent object. You can tune that down to, let's say, 75. So we have at least we can see that there is an object. It will not be completely transparent. And here, as you already know, this is the refraction. And the refraction value for common glass materials is 1.52. And now you see we have some sort of a change here. It starts to look more like a glass. So let's enable that Fresnel shader and see what it does. So now if you look straight to the object is black. And if you look from the side, the object will be much more lighter. We want the exact opposite of that, so we will click on that Fresnel shader, and here under gradient you can simply right click and say invert. And now if you look straight through the window, it will be transparent, and if you look from the side, it will be darkened. So you won't be able to see through it. So we can really put some color here, let's say blue color, and you will see the effect. Okay, so fully transparent, and the more you look from the side, it will become less transparent. It also works for waters and many materials. Okay, so let's cover our next guy. I will completely delete that material and disable this interactive preview, and I will create a new one, and I'll disable this specular and work with color channel again. The next guy we will cover is this gradient guy. Let's enable it, and if you enter in gradient options, it doesn't look like much at the start, but you are wrong. You can't imagine how much possibilities and how complex shapes this shader can mimic. So let's apply that material, and I can enable interactive preview render. So currently you can see that this material is set to this type 2DU. So this means, well, without actually overcomplicating it, these are various modes for this gradient shader, how it will calculate from which direction to where. So now I can, while this is selected, I can cycle them by arrow up and down keys. So let's go one down and you will see the immediate difference in the shading. So sometimes the picture speaks 1,000 words, so you can see various models of how this shader will be represented. I suggest for the first use that you keep it to this default 2D hue. And why? I will show you why. This means if you have some sort of a flat object, the gradient will start on one side and it will end on the other side. And this is the farmost left and farmost right. And if you use this V option, it will be based from, let's say, down to up. Okay? That's not really technically correct, but it will give you a good representation of it. And now some of you may ask, okay, this is not really something nice. And just to demonstrate it, I will create a simple gradient shader. Firstly, I can delete, you see these little gizmos, you can move them and do anything with them. And this little guy, this other gizmo, is how this gradient will be interpolated between those two colors. Let me undo that. I will delete this guy simply because I want to get completely black start. I will do something nice, just in few mouse clicks, you'll be very happy about it. So instead of clicking here and creating a new, if you want to create another color chip from the existing color chip, you can hold down Control key and you will copy that color chip and place it here. And I want to create one in the middle. Give it some color, something like, I don't know, maybe something like really violet. And actually you can see now that it is represented in the render. So black is here on the left, this violet in the middle, and this black also far to the right. I actually want a very thin line between them. And if I set these gradients really close, I won't get it. I want to really to copy once again those black ones and really squeeze that violet line to a bare minimum. And I have a line. It doesn't look like much, but now if I play with this turbulence value will create, it will distort this gradient. So let me put something like 10 in here, and there you go. That's your lightning bolt. The advantage of all those shaders that have this is sort of not really a circle, it's a rounded beveled cube in Relief 12. You can animate that, and that is really powerful. So you can create, for example, a lightning effect inside Cinema 4D. So any light effects that should be really bright or emit light should be allowed in this luminance channel. So let me copy this shader and put it here under luminance channel. I will disable this color and activate luminance. Oops, apparently I didn't copy it. Good, let me try again. Paste, and now it will be much more vivid, and later with addition of global illumination it can really light up your scene. So imagine creating a night scene and you will create a gradient, enable global illumination in the render, and when you animate that shader, the scene will light up accordingly to this gradient. That's some really neat stuff there. So let's go to our next guy and completely delete this shader. So the next guy we will load is this extremely powerful, versatile, flexible uber shader. This is this noise shader, and let me apply it here and do a preview render of it. And if you go inside this noise shader, you will actually see it has a lot of options. And there are so many types of noises here. You can also, once selected, you can cycle them and see the results in the viewport. So those noise types are really mathematical calculations how the surface should look like. So if you cycle a bit, you can see various types of them. Also here under this little small arrow, you can click and actually see the preview of all those noise types. So for example, let's select this last one. And this has some sort of a wavy pattern. For the starters, the most used options are the global scale. So let's say 50% for that value. And you will see it will become smaller. And the noise shader can be used in so many situations. It can simulate almost any type of surfaces. It could be used for walls, for marble, for anything you can imagine. Let's find some decent one, something like this. Let's create some variation in color here. So let's say, for example, this. I like this color also, and let's say this one, something like this. And we can maybe scale down to 10. And now we have a really detailed pattern. And what's more important than really just to cram down so much technical stuff is that you can layer those shaders. You can stack them. So I just demonstrated here that noise shader in this color channel, which is really not suitable for that. The best channels for noise is to add irregularities to the surface, to add some variation is in the bump, normal, or displacement or diffusion channel. Most commonly bump and displacement. Normal is a bit different. We will talk about normal maps later. So let me show you, for example, this very same shader in, let's say, a displacement channel. Here we will clear it up and add it here as a displacement. I absolutely love displacements. For realism, for simulating really realistic surfaces, nothing comes over displacement. Let me show you that. And you can see here, now we already have some sort of a wall. If we add a little bit of color here, something like maybe this, we would get a decent shader. So noise shaders are extremely powerful, as we will show you later. So we discussed this color, Fresnel, gradient, and noise, and we will discuss other ones in the next lesson.